Hi, my name is Imogen, and today the issue I've chosen to talk about is the notion of inclusive education, which begs the question, is education within Australia inclusive for all? And if not, how can we make it this way, making equal opportunity and inclusion a reality? While much of the national curriculum and policy documents outline the importance of an inclusive education and curriculum, in reality, many of the systems in place in schools, such as NAPLAN and the national curriculum, foster competition and push for excellence, undermining inclusive principles such as equal opportunity. These are issues of particular significance in Australia, as many people assume that in today's day and age there is little room for exclusion, with policy after policy outlining zero tolerance for discrimination, bullying, classism and racism. However, it remains a fact that Australian education, despite the rhetoric outlined in many policies, hasn't been able to put this into practice, with many types of people unable to succeed in what is supposed to be an inclusive education system. Some of the people specifically left at a disadvantage include Indigenous Australians, people from rural areas, people from low socioeconomic backgrounds, ESL students, and people with special learning needs or disabilities. As a pre-service teacher, it's important for me that I feel equipped to tackle some of these educational inadequacies and implement classroom practices that promote inclusion for all. Our country is an extremely diverse and multicultural place. If difference isn't tolerated in schools, then how can we expect it to be tolerated and embraced in our society? According to the 2008 Melbourne Declaration on Educational Goals for Young Australians, for schooling to promote equity and excellence for all, school sectors must improve educational outcomes for Indigenous youth by closing the gap. This is something that must be done in order to develop inclusivity across Australia. However, McNaughton and Davis suggest that the critical race theory continues to privilege white people and disadvantage other groups. The education system therefore has to change to incorporate difference in both schools and society. The reality is, however, that unless the curriculum and what's being taught is reflected upon critically, beliefs and assumptions could inadequately perpetuate inequalities in the classroom and subsequently widen the gap between Australians and Indigenous people. The second goal of the Declaration contends that all young Australians become confident and creative individuals. If this is to be the case, however, the structure of the school and its inability to celebrate difference needs to be reformed. The Declaration suggests that we need to enable students to explore and build on their gifts and talents, yet it also asserts that literacy and numeracy remain cornerstones of schooling for young Australians. If we really are to promote inclusion and equal opportunity, Sir Ken Robinson, in his talk Bringing on the Learning Revolution, suggests equal weight needs to be given to arts, humanities, dance and physical education, as well as numeracy and literacy. Robinson says that some brilliant people think they aren't because art is stigmatised or undervalued in the education system. If we undervalue the ability of students in schools, then their role of society is undervalued as well. Some of the organisations working with the government in order to tackle issues such as inclusivity in education include UNESCO. UNESCO provides some guidelines for areas of intervention for Indigenous people, including 1. Developing guidelines for Indigenous tribal people relevant to their needs and aspirations, accommodating their culture, language and learning styles. 2. Supporting reflection and action to render curricula and teaching methodologies sensitive to Indigenous people's rights, perspectives, experiences and aspirations. And also 3, developing educational and training programs for Indigenous people in relation to Indigenous people's rights, techniques of negotiation and leadership skills. The Victorian Government outlines in Inclusive Schools Are Effective Schools that all government schools and their students, including those with disabilities and additional learning needs, are entitled to an excellent education. The paper describes inclusive schools as schools that recognise and respond to the diverse needs of their students, accommodating both different learning styles and rates of learning and ensuring quality education to all. In reality, if these goals are to be met, Forbes suggests schools of the future will be required to have teachers with adequate training in disabilities and special needs at an undergraduate level. The policies put forward by the Australian government are utopian in nature, as they put more stress and obligation on already under-resourced teachers. If these goals and the numerous policies surrounding inclusion are to be met, teachers need to come to the classroom adequately prepared and supported. Cranord suggests that in response to the challenges of delivering an inclusive pedagogy, there has been research suggesting teachers can utilise a universal design for learning. The principles of universal design refer to a curriculum which allows equal access to information for all students. The teacher acts as a facilitator of knowledge whilst monitoring the processes students use. The students, however, essentially direct their own learning, promoting self-sufficiency. This particular form of pedagogy allows students of differing abilities and circumstances access to and participation in the same curriculum. Cranord provides an example of this particular pedagogy, which was documented in the Right Ideas project. A teacher at a primary school was presenting a lesson to a diverse range of students. She was using Reader's Theatre to approach the Aboriginal Dreamtime. Two groups of students were looking at the story Bohea the Kangaroo. The students were given two different representations of the story. The teacher used her prior knowledge of the students to plan adequately and also to allow students to choose their own version of the story. This allowed students flexibility when examining the text, meeting students' needs and fostering participation for all within the classroom. If we really are going to meet the goals outlined in the numerous policy documents and create inclusive schools, the education system has to be reformed. Teachers need to be adequately prepared and supported, and subjects need to be given equal weight across the curriculum. Only then can education fulfill its goal to empower children with the skills, attitudes, and knowledge to make equality a reality. Thank you.